Aloha everyone, welcome. I'm Abaya and today I will be guiding a practice that will focus on helping reset the way that we support our head. So if you've been traveling, if you sit a lot for work, if you feel tightness in your neck muscles and your shoulder muscles, this will be a great way to experiment with how you can better and more efficiently support your head for a happier body. Before we begin, it's nice to have a little before and after experiment. So let's take a moment to see how our neck muscles feel today. You can gently start to rotate the head from side to side, and first just take a snapshot of the quality of your movement. Does it feel fluid? Does it feel sticky? Does it feel good or not so good? Just what is one quality to describe this sensation? And then the next time you're looking over to the left, take your fingertips underneath your chin, and this will be a measurement of where your chin is on your collarbone. So for me, it looks like it's about a third of the way down on my collarbone. So that's our quantity of range of motion here. It might be a little different as you look the other way. You don't need to write this down or anything, but it'll be fun to see how it changes and evolves throughout class. So with that, we get to lay down, turn to your right, and move any props out of the way. Let this be a part of your process, so enjoy the pathway down onto your back. Imagine you're a bar of chocolate and you're starting to melt in the Hawaiian sun, releasing, softening, and turning into a little chocolate pool. And then we'll eventually land in Savasana. Close the eyes if it feels safe. Check in with your low back. Sometimes Savasana can actually be kind of intense, so if this doesn't feel good anywhere in the body, you can bend the knees, soles of feet to the floor, and let the knees drop in towards one another. So find a comfortable way to be. Close the mouth and try breathing through the nose. Let the tongue gently rest on the soft palate. And start to feel the sensation of your body resting on the floor. Feel the weight of the pelvis, the heels, calves, thoracic vertebra, the occiput and back of the head, the arms. And then even though there are spaces not resting on the earth, like maybe the backs of the knees, low back, the back of the neck, start to use your breath to feel throughout the whole body. And of course you can't actually breathe into the feet, but you can use your breath and your consciousness as a way of shining your awareness throughout the body. And so just imagine the breath flooding the whole body. Imagine you're going to sculpt yourself with your eyes closed. And you have to just use your breath and your awareness to figure out the shape of each body part. And we're going to take our time with this, so let the breath scan the body. If you notice anywhere that feels tight, unsupported, numb, explore a little bit. See if you can soften, see if you can wiggle around a little bit, make adjustments so that there is a sense of evenness and equanimity throughout the body. Imagine you're floating on a lily pad. So obviously that means you're a teeny tiny person, maybe a fairy or an elf or something. And just feel that connection with nature, that support of the buoyancy of the pond and your little lily pad, and cultivate a sense of safety and nourishment inside of your heart. And I know the lily pad image is like cute and funny, but really there is this like uplifting, buoyant experience that's possible with the visualization that goes beyond what it feels like to be resting on the earth. Like you're floating. Yes, that's it. It's like you're floating, but it's easier. That was the complicated way I got there. Oh, aloha, Laura. So great to see you. We're floating on lily pads right now. And the reason I wanted to take the time to create this feeling of floating is because I want this to be the priority throughout class. Even as we start to move and do things with our bodies, do it in a way that has so much ease that it really feels like you're still just here floating on your lily pad. And so let's start to explore that a little bit. If you haven't already, bend the knees, placing the soles of the feet to the earth. Feet are about hips distance. You can't see your feet, but you can feel them. Play with anchoring the big toe down, letting each of the other toes start to press into the mat without any gripping. Try to feel where the heel anchors and then the outer edge of the foot, the ball of the foot. So almost like visualize your footprint as if you were pressing into sand. You can push into one foot at a time and notice how the body slightly shifts. The pelvis tilts. You might feel a little rotation through the torso. Let the shoulders be soft, arms soft. It's almost like you're going for a little teeny walk. And then let the shifting get smaller and smaller until it's imperceptible to an outside eye, but you can feel it. And notice how making this movement smaller has a strengthening quality. You might start to feel the muscles of the deep core, which are very, very subtle, starting to support the pelvis, starting to support the spine. I know mine are turning on when I feel like I want to lengthen my spine out and lengthen my neck out, and there's just this like rising up of spaciousness through the spine. And then relax, bring your arms to a T. I like backs of hands to the floor so the chest opens, but do whatever's comfortable. Walk the feet a little bit wider, and then very, very slowly start to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. Try to keep your pelvis level. In fact, let's pause and take a moment to find a neutral pelvis. So rock the pelvis forward, the low back's gonna arch. Rock the pelvis back, the low back's gonna flatten. Play with this, and then just like our last movement, let the rocks get teenier and teenier. And contrary to popular belief, these smaller movements are so strengthening. They're strengthening to your focus, to your interoception, your ability to feel what's happening, and they're literally strengthening to the muscles of the deep core. So try to feel how less is more is real. And then find that place where it feels like the pelvis is neutral for you today, and it's okay if that changes in the future. And now maintain that neutral as you start to windshield wiper the knees. Keep both ilium, those are the bones of the pelvis, anchored to the floor. You're going to feel like your windshield wipers are really limited, and that's great. You're waking up the deep core of the hip socket. you're waking up the deep core of the whole body, which is the deep front line for those of you that have studied that. Try anchoring the big toes down. As you do that, the big toes are connected to our deep core, so you might notice that sense of buoyancy through the arches of the feet, the pelvic floor, even in the tongue as you do that. And then come back to center, palms face down, slide the arms slowly towards the heels so you can take in the environment of the floor underneath you. Give yourself permission to adjust where the feet are. Sometimes it feels like they want more space or they want to come in closer to the hips. Just try to listen and respond to the cravings of the body. And from here, we're going to be playing with unweighting our limbs. And this is, yet again, small movements, so less is still more. Keep the pelvis neutral. Let the spine be long. Try tucking the chin a little bit to give the cervical vertebra some space. And then before we move, connect with your breath. Notice a sense of spaciousness as you inhale. And as you exhale, let your awareness wrap around your spine. You might even feel the physical support that's wrapping around the spine as you exhale. And the next time you exhale, play with unweighting the right arm so it doesn't lift away from the mat, but it's almost like you don't want to leave an imprint in the sand. Right? And release that on the inhale. Try it a few times, exhaling, taking the weight out of the arm. And if you're doing it right, it should feel like the work of lifting the arm is coming from the core. If you're feeling effort in the shoulder or any sense of strain, try actually lifting a little less. You can even play with just lifting the elbow. And then eventually play with the other arm. And remember, the exhale to unweight is going to help the movement integrate into your deep core. I know a lot of you are new to my yoga class, so don't worry, we do actually move eventually. But it's really important to work to wake up the deep core first. So we're going to take a little extra time with that today, and your body's going to feel amazing. So be patient, release that urgency, that need to express your movement outwardly, and try to feel it inwardly instead. If you're still figuring out this unweighting thing, you can keep it in the arms. If it's making sense to you, try taking the weight out of just the right heel. And then just the left heel. And explore one at a time. And the reason I like the heel instead of the whole foot is it lets the hip flexors stay relaxed. And I find that it helps it go more into my deep core. So it's almost like you slowly elevate the heel as if you were wearing a high heel. And then you can play with opposite arm and leg. So unweighting the right arm as the left heel lifts, and maybe feeling how both those limbs connect across the body. And again, we're going for a little tiny walk. It's almost like when you see a dog dreaming and they're like doing 1% of what running or drinking is. It's like you're doing 1% of going for a walk right now. And then let everything relax. Slowly start to sweep the left arm up and overhead. Push into the right foot and let it send the knees over to the left so you can roll onto the side of the body. Let the head rest on the bottom arm and let everything soften and relax so you feel comfortable here. Right hand plants gently in front of you, and we'll start to massage the left side of the body. Can begin with your awareness at the feet, massaging across the side and tops of the feet. And then up towards the shin. It's okay to bend and straighten the legs if that helps you touch a spot on the legs that you can't quite access, especially if you have an area that feels tight. Do it whatever you can to give it a little love. And just keep walking your way up the side body. But if you find a place that's particularly useful, stay there, linger there. Free massage, take advantage of it. You have to pay yourself $100 after this class. And then let's all pay a little extra attention to the front and the back of the shoulder. Make sure the neck feels soft. The side of the skull gets a little massage on the arm as you rotate on the shoulder. And start to press the hand into the floor, the left hand, so that you're gently massaging the muscles in the back of the hand and the wrist. And you don't want to create any strain in the wrist, but imagine you're waking up awareness and support in the wrist as you do this. And if I ever cue something that doesn't feel good or doesn't feel right in the body, this practice is about feeling safe, feeling nourished and supported. So please always prioritize that. It might mean backing off. It might mean skipping something. Generally, everything we do feels pretty good, I think, but please give yourself that permission and also that awareness, that accountability. Don't just assume what I say is the gold standard. Discover it for yourself. Come back to stillness. Start to push into the front hand and slide the back hand in so you can slowly make your way up to this side saddle seat. If it's uncomfortable, you can grab a blanket and place it underneath the left sit bone, and let's just take a nice easy rotation through the spine and gently sway a little bit from side to side. The swaying means you haven't gone too far. If you feel sticky, like you can't really sway, back out of the twist a little bit. I like the swaying here because you get a massage on the IT band and the outer hip. Stay bouncy in the arms. Let's actually imagine that left arm jumping. Push into the hand and bounce up. And obviously we're in space, so gravity works a little differently. So do some of this like anti-gravity jumping. And thanks, Roseanne. My mic died, and I think she caught it pretty early. Hope anyone wasn't jumping too long with that arm before you discovered something was wrong. Move the prop away from the sit bone and extend the legs in front of you. This is a surprisingly challenging pose for a lot of people, so if it doesn't feel good, you can cross the legs or lean back a little bit, but I want you to just do a body scan to notice the difference between right and left sides of the body. We did a little bit of rolling on that one side, some jumping with the hand, and notice any sense of connectivity, spaciousness. You can even experiment with that same neck turn that we did at the beginning and see if the right and left sides of the neck feel a little different. And then start to lean over to the right hand to the floor, tuck the legs in, and we're making our way back into Savasana. So scoot your hips towards the center of your mat and start to paw your hands down. The right arm will feed through, melt the right shoulder down, and then here you are, chocolate again, melting in the Hawaiian sun, and let yourself actively experience the quality of melting. Don't just land in the puddle. The melting is like where the magic is. Feel that active melting sensation. And even when you land in stillness in Savasana, imagine you're still melting. You can let the edges of your skin start to blur, as if the electrons were vibrating a little faster and there's less separation between where your body ends and everything else begins. Slowly start to circle the arms overhead. Give yourself a full body stretch. And then slide the feet in, soles of feet to the earth. Some of the work we're going to be doing today is going to have to do with resetting the pull of the front and back line of the body. So let's wake up some awareness in the front line of our body. Interlace the hands at the base of the skull. Let the knees float into the chest, and use your exhale to very slowly start to curl up one vertebra at a time. Remember, you're still floating on a lily pad, so feel that spaciousness and buoyancy. Then as you exhale, slowly set the head down, set the feet down, pause, and then try it again. And let's actually exhale for the curling up and try to feel how the whole front of the body is shortening, not just rectus abdominis, but all the way down into the quadriceps, the front of the thighs. And then now as you inhale, let the whole front of the body stay integrated but start to lengthen. So soles of feet touch the earth. Now start to reach the knees forward and feel how the space from quads to the rectus abdominis is lengthening. And we'll take a few pulses like this at our own pace. And so at this first round, we'll exhale to curl up, integrating front line of the body. And then we'll inhale, stay integrated, but let all of those muscles start to lengthen. So you can experience that eccentric contraction where the muscles stay strong as they get longer. Let's do one more like this. And then release the hips down. Keep the elbows nice and open and take a few breaths, letting the elbows get heavy so the chest can open. Breathe into the back and the front of the heart. And then we'll do that same thing again, but we're going to reverse the breath so that you inhale on the curl up and you exhale for the eccentric contraction through the front of the body. And as you do the reverse breathing, inhaling up and exhaling to lengthen, notice if your movements feel a little more effortless. Notice if there's that buoyant, floating quality that we've been cultivating. It's almost as if you're watching yourself move without the grip, without the control. The next time you're up in Setabandha Sarvangasana, pause there, anchor the big toes. You can stay here and breathe. You can adjust the arms to anything that's comfortable. And then very slowly start to draw some big circles with the hips. So they move over to the left, down to center, over to the right, and then up towards the apex of your bridge pose. And let the circles be really slow. Try to feel the area of the body that's being massaged as the hips circle. I'm finding that it feels better with my hips lower. And so explore how high the hips are. It's going to massage different areas on the back body. And then eventually let your hips come all the way to the earth. Reach the right arm overhead, kick into the left foot, rolling onto the right side. Now we massage the right side body. Start at the feet, make your way up. And yes, it's a massage. Yes, it feels good and releases tension and hydrates the tissues, but it's also an opportunity to wake up awareness through the whole right side of the body. And awareness is magic. The more awareness we have of the body, the better everything will work for us, the more efficiently, the more pain-free. Try to feel your natural breath flow as you massage the body here. Slowly keep making your way up, little extra love to the shoulder and the wrist. And then start to push into the left hand, slide the right hand in, paw your way up to your side saddle seat. Legs can be in any angle that is most comfortable for the knees and the hips. And then start to bounce and jump on the right hand. Let the elbow be really soft and favor the pinky side of the hand. You can even imagine like a little karate chop. And Roseanne, that's going to be really important for you because it's going to make it a lot less flexion in the wrist. The wrist actually stays pretty neutral when you do that. Try to feel how that wakes up support through the back arm line into the triceps and into the trapezius. Try moving a little slower and finding that anti-gravity hang time at the top where everything's just suspended. And then the next time you come up, allow the outer right thigh to push down into the earth. Spine rebounds and gently rotates to the right. Take a couple of breaths. Let the back of the neck lengthen. You can even waggle the head a little bit. And then kick the legs out in front or sit however's comfortable, just to feel now hopefully a sense of equilibrium and awareness through both sides of the body. Anchor the sits bones down and gently, actually let's experiment with something. Bend the knees. So we did this on the floor, right? We curled up and we slowly rolled open into bridge. Let yourself curl forward so the front line of the body is shortening. Make sure you're supporting your head and not feeling like a big stretch on the back of the neck. And now slowly start to push the feet down to unfurl the spine and feel how the front of the body is lengthening, though it's still toned, right? You can explore this by planting the hands behind you and let that space keep lengthening as the spine extends. And then circle the arms in front of you. Try it again. So curl up, so sort of like a crunch from another angle, and then press into the feet to slowly roll up. And notice how the core stays so integrated here as those muscles eccentrically contract. Pay attention to what the neck and the base of the skull are doing here. See if you can create a little extra strength. Option to lengthen backwards. Option to lift the hips, but only if the wrists and shoulders are craving that little bit extra work. We'll just do one more. And on this last one, try to feel how the back of the body is suctioning up as the front line lengthens. So you can feel those two muscle teams working together. The next time the hips land, sway the knees over to the right, plant the hands to the right, and glide the knees underneath you for tabletop. Grab your blocks and grab one blanket for underneath your knees, even if you think you don't need it. Option to grab a sip of water, as long as we're grabbing things. Okay. If you're following along with the playlist, you can go to the second track. Make sure it's set to loop. Okay. Let's bring our blocks to the highest height. Stack the shoulders over the wrists, and option to let your 4 fingers wrap around the side of the block. Sometimes that's kinder on people's wrists. So do whatever feels sustainable for your wrists here. Just like we did on the back, take a moment to rock the pelvis forward, rock the pelvis back, and then try to find what you think might be neutral. And neutral usually takes a little bit of deep core support to find. Once you've got that, start to push the hands into the blocks, drop the sits bones, and let the low back start to round. So kind of like cat pose, but we're localizing it to the low back. And then for our mini cow pose, drag the hands back and let just the upper spine arch. Push the hands down into the blocks, low back only cat. And then drag the hands back, upper back cow. Start to sync this with the breath, and let's do some reverse breathing here. So inhale as you round into cat and really breathe down into the kidneys. And then exhale as you drag your hands back. And the reason we're doing our reverse breathing here is so that you have that sense of being able to breathe a lot of space into the low back as you round. And then that connectivity that's possible as you exhale, as you lengthen through the spine. So we stay really connected, we stay really buoyant. The next time you round into cat pose, try to feel how the front of your body is shorter. Walk the blocks in just a little bit and send your hips forward to slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. So the front of the body lengthens. Feel how the back of the body is pulling down. With your next exhale, slow motion, float the arms to the horizon to awaken the deep core. And then let the whole front of the body lengthen. The arms keep their relationship with the shoulders. The lengthening all happens through the deep core. And then at the last moment, let your arms do a nice wide backstroke, bringing them back down to the blocks. And we start it again. So push into the hands, rounding the low back for our mini cat. Send the hips forward, slowly stacking one vertebra at a time. Feel front body lifting, back body pulling down, arms float to the horizon, and then eventually big backstroke. One last time on your own. We'll inhale, low back cat. And then exhale, press the hips forward, staying integrated as you slowly float up. One more inhale, big backstroke. And then exhale, the hands down to the block. Tuck the toes under. Hover the knees and walk the feet in, bending the knees really deeply, so it should hopefully feel like very accessible to have the hands on the block. So we're in Uttanasana, standing forward bend. It's okay to have that extra blanket beneath you. Bend the knees deeply and sway the hips from side to side like you're a very happy dog, but you're moving in slow motion as you wag your tail. Start to walk the hands forward and eventually find a place where you can press into the hands and reach the hips back, kind of like down dog, but it's like there's no gravity. It doesn't feel as intense as down dog. Bend the knees a little bit extra and try to find a straight line from hands, shoulders to the hips. And then keep swaying and try playing with walking the blocks over to one side to get a little extra side stretch, and then walking them to the other side. Walk the hands back to center. We're going to do the same thing that we did from kneeling. So bend the knees, press the hands down into the blocks, low back, round the spine for mini cat pose. Breathe into the low back. And now exhale, press the hips forward, slow motion, slowly roll up one vertebra at a time. You can even bring your hands onto the spine to help you feel a little more awareness as you roll up one vertebra at a time. And once you land, give yourself permission to adjust where the feet are. Paw out, shifting weight from foot to foot, finding a place where the pelvis feels relaxed and supported, and then relax the arms down by the side. Anchor the big toe. Rock your weight forward. You'll feel the toes grip a little bit. Keep the big toes anchored. Rock your weight back, and you'll probably feel the deep core engage. Take a couple of these rocks. Little gentle mobilizing in the ankle, waking up the muscles in the feet, and feeling how this gentle rocking integrates all the way into the deep core. Let the rocking get smaller and smaller till you find a place where it feels like the big toe and the heel are working together and you're just balanced above. Let the tailbone lengthen downward. Hands to the hips. Take a couple of pelvic tilts, finding what you think is neutral without any judgment. It's okay if it's not perfect. And then maintain neutral. Exhale, slowly float the arms to the horizon to wake up the deep core. Inhale, release the arms down. And then exhale to float them back up. Do this a couple more times on your own, trying to feel that very subtle brightness that happens at your center, your inner thighs. Try moving 3 times as slow through the whole range of motion. It might feel easy to move slower at the beginning and then you speed up. See if you can stay slow. The next time you've got your zombie arms, pause there. Anchor the big toes down, and imagine you've got like 2 TheraBands, 2 giant rubber bands that you're holding onto that are tied to your ankles. Start to pull them forward and up to let the whole front of the body open. Deep core stays on, but you feel the more superficial muscles turn on to bend back. And then let the arms go nice and wide like a backstroke. Bend the knees. Place the hands back to the blocks, and we'll do that again. So press into the blocks, rounding the low spine. Inhale into the kidneys. Exhale, press the hips forward, slowly rolling up, arms float to the horizon. And then slowly let the front of the body lift as the back of the body pulls down. Big backstroke. And then the knees bend and the body melts. One more on your own. Let's meet at that beginning of the movement where the hands are on the blocks. This time, walk the blocks forward and walk the feet back. So you're in plank pose, but it should feel a little easier because there's more weight in the legs and less weight in the arms. Take a moment here. You can always lower to forearms if the wrists would prefer that, but it's just harder on the core. And then slowly melt the knees, flatten the tops of the feet, and let the pelvis rest on the hips. Palms face up, forehead to block or floor. You can enjoy stillness, inhaling through the spine to the low back, or you can gently sway, massaging the forehead from side to side. Slowly float back up. Bring your hands to the blocks. And we're going to play with like a mini down dog, up dog situation. So keep the knees down. Push into the hands to send the hips up and back. So kind of like the energy of down dog. Take a breath through the spine. And then start to push down into the knees, rolling the spine forward through that cat pose that we've been practicing, feeling the front of the body connect. Walk the blocks back just a little bit, and then pull the hands back to lengthen the front of the body. Try to feel how the back of the body's pulling down and the front of the body's open. Little bend in the elbows. You can even do a little tricep dip here if you want to. And then try that again. Option to tuck toes. Press into the hands, sending the hips back. So same like energetics of down dog, but a lot less work, right? And so push in the hands, lengthen through the spine. Then with your next inhale, push down into the shins, roll forward, catting the spine into like a puffy plank. Drag the hands back, letting the front of the body open and trying to play with that work we've been doing of the front body eccentrically contracting as the back body pulls down. Do one more. I'm playing with different heights of my blocks, so feel free to try that. And if it feels good and your wrists are feeling strong and your shoulders are feeling strong, feel free to actually lift the knees and do this anti-gravity down dog. I call it anti-gravity down dog because it's so much easier when the hands are lifted. Just make sure the knees lower as you play with this modification of up dog. You don't want to feel any pressure in the low back. And the next time you're forward, lower the hands from the blocks, move them off to the side, and slowly recline onto the belly. The blanket, I'm lifting it so it's underneath my pelvis. You could also remove it completely. Reach your right arm out to a half Y, melt your forehead down, and slowly lift the left leg. Start to cross it over the right leg so you're peeling the left hip up. Push the right hand down into the floor so the right arm feels integrated into the core, and try to feel how right arm and left leg are connected. Inhale, slowly roll back onto the belly, and exhale, push the right arm down as you roll open once again. Take a few of these rolls, inhaling to release and exhaling for this integrated full body work that is really opening the chest, helping to reset the connection between the front of the body and the back of the body. The next time you roll open, if you want to stay there, you can take a couple of breaths. You can always bend the top leg for a little extra weight, peeling the body open. And then eventually roll back onto the belly and go the other way. So now left arm opens to the Y, right arm slides underneath the shoulder. Slowly lift the right leg, peeling open. And the inhale brings you onto the belly, and the exhale peels you open. Make sure you're pressing that left arm down. And we're not trying to mobilize the shoulder here. So you really don't want to feel any pressure in the front or the back of the shoulder. We're more interested in feeling how the left arm integrates into the pec muscle, the chest muscle, all the way across into that right hip. So again, eccentric contraction. The muscles that are lengthening are also strengthening. And then for the last round, you can play with rolling onto the belly, swapping arms, peeling open. Rolling onto the belly, swapping arms, peeling open. Just move slowly, almost like swimming. And then lower both legs, stack the hands, elbows wide. Find your neutral pelvis and breathe through the back body. Let the neck lengthen. Walk the hands in underneath the shoulders and gently press yourself up to a tabletop. Bring your hips back to the heels. Push the shins down. Slowly start to stack the spine like we've practiced so many times, letting one vertebra at a time roll up, and try to feel that moment when the shoulder girdle lands on the rib cage. Notice that sensation of the back line of the body pulling down, front line of the body being hoisted. And just take a couple of breaths here. And then sit the hips over to one side. Actually, before you do that, let's start to collect all of our props. I'm going to demo the pose that we're going to be doing. You might need to grab extra props if you haven't already. So we'll be doing a restorative fish pose with the 2 blocks and 3 blankets. And so the way the 3 blankets work is you'll fold them so they're long and kind of skinny to support your spine. And then one of them goes down first. The second one staggers over the edge, so there's this nice even ramp instead of like a big stair step. And then the final one is going to support your head. So let me demonstrate this before you try to lay down. So I like to create a little roll in the top one for my occiput, the base of my skull. You'll bring your low back to the blanket that protrudes the most, and then you'll slowly drape your spine over the props. And then you'll adjust that third top blanket so that you can tuck your chin, and it's almost like that little roll catches the skull and tractions, so it creates extra length through the spine. So it's a very gentle back bend. It shouldn't feel intense. It shouldn't feel like a big stretch or anything like that. And then the blocks are going to support you in Baddha Konasana. So the soles of the feet come together, angle the block so it's just balancing on this little ridge, and then the flat side will support the legs. This should be an experience of feeling supported and integrated and held together. It should not feel like a stretch or like anything is opening or lengthening. So take your time getting all your props, setting up all those things. If you want to dim the lights, if you want to put a warm layer on, you can. Now is a good time to pause your music. And then you'll know you have found the right spot because it should feel like, like, yes, there's this suspension and support and space. And if you don't feel like that, take the time, grab another pillow, grab another blanket, adjust the folds, because it's really worth it when you find all those little ways to support yourself and to feel equilibrium and balance. And then just make sure the arm bones feel supported in the shoulder socket. So I like to tuck my elbows in so that there's no pressure in the back of the glenohumeral joint, where the arm anchors into the rest of the body. And once you've found that sweet spot, just like we did at the beginning, notice that sensation of being held. Let yourself arrive back on that lily pad and feel that possibility of being supported yet light. yourself relax. Close the eyes if that feels safe. Close the mouth if you can. And just let yourself observe the breath. We'll stay here for the next 5 minutes. If at any time something doesn't feel comfortable, give yourself permission to adjust. You can extend the legs, you can come away from the blankets. Start to feel your natural breath flow. Use your hands to lift the knees away from the block. Step the feet a little wider than the hips so you can knock the knees in. Move the blocks over to the side. Tuck the chin a little bit extra. Keep the base of the skull heavy. but start to turn the head over to the right, letting the base of the skull slide against the blanket for a little massage, and smear the back of the head from side to side really slowly. I like to tuck my chin as I do this and almost keep the contact with the same point on the blanket, so the head is rotating and sliding under you at the same time. Sort of a hard thing to cue, but just play with what feels best for you. And then tuck the chin, coming back to center. Roll towards me off of your stack of blankets. Gently press up. You can use these blankets for a really nice Savasana. So one roll underneath the knees is nice. The second roll can go over the torso for like a nice grounding effect, or across the pelvis. And the third one can open a little bit bigger, and placing it just underneath the shoulders can be a nice support for the trapezius. So it's not quite like under the head like a pillow, but it goes further underneath the back body. And before we do Savasana, we'll do one last thing for our trapezius muscle, just to help reset any patterns of tightness in the body. Bend the elbows, placing them tucked into the side of the body like you're holding a very precious treasure chest in front of your navel. And start to tuck the chin and visualize the diamond from the base of the skull out to the shoulders, down to the mid-back. That's the trapezius muscle. Start to push those 4 points down into the mat. You can also push the elbows down, because that's going to help stimulate those 4 points. And this is an eccentric activation of the trapezius muscle, so try to feel those 4 points spreading out as you push down. There's a tendency to arch the low back, so instead try to practice catting the bottom of the spine like we did in so many positions today, and you might feel the low traps turn on a little bit more. And then release, melting, softening. Let the arms relax. Let the spine and pelvis stop working so that you can completely soften. And if you want to do that one more time, you can, to just sort of ride the wave of clenching and releasing and feeling that potential that's possible as you completely let go of any effort, not just in the trapezius, but then throughout the whole body. And then it's the last time I'll mention this, maybe, you can just float on your lily pad and feel that buoyancy and support, that dynamic stability. And we'll rest here for the next 10 minutes. And we did a lot of interesting movement patterns to release tight muscles, to awaken dormant muscles, to reset the lines of pull in the body. And so just imagine your most perfect balanced self resting in Savasana. No tension anywhere, no injuries anywhere. Just an even support and full consciousness through the whole body. Just imagine as you rest here, you earn yourself a fresh start, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, energetically. And then you could rest in that visualization, just relaxing and becoming it with each breath. Let yourself just be still. Take a moment to observe your whole body. Before you move or travel anywhere, visualize yourself sitting in a meditation posture, almost levitating. So much ease in the body, so much lightness and support. Just try to see yourself in that perfect posture where the spine is long and the hips are supported and the muscles on the front of the body are lifting. The muscles in the back of the body are anchoring downward. And the head is completely weightless in this position of perfect balance. We've done a lot to release tight muscles on the front of the body and wake up lazy muscles on the back of the body. And so just visualize that perfect balance. And then start to make gentle movements. Try to keep that experience of floating, of being suspended, evenly supported. Keep it going as you start to move, as you start to wake up your body, eventually moving props, eventually rolling around a little bit, finding a way up to seated. There's no need to rush. Let it be a process. Let it be an exploration. Enjoy the path. And once you make it up to seated, before you get too comfortable, though I want you to get very comfortable, I want to do one last exploration of integrating the front of the body and slowly rolling up. I forgot about this when I reset the camera. We might need to zoom out a little, I don't know. So from whatever your normal comfortable seat is, place the hands to the legs and gently start to curl forward, feeling that shortening of the front of the body that we've been working with. Take a breath there, breathing space into the low back. And then push the legs down into the ground to slowly let the body roll open, feeling the front of the body reach upward and the back of the body pulling downward. Letting the shoulders land on the rib cage, letting the head float above that. And then imagine you're like a raft, and I just put like the teeniest little air hole in your raft. Let yourself start to deflate back into that rounded position. And then you'll slowly inhale, inflate, feeling the back line of the body pulling down, the front of the body lifting and opening. And then when there's that even balance between front and back, the shoulders just land and the head floats. Take a couple more on your own, especially if you feel like you're still figuring out that sensation and exploring it. And remember, the rounding forward, just like when we did those baby cats, is more in the low back. You don't want to feel any strain or stress in the upper back or the neck, or you don't actually want to feel strain or stress ever during this yoga class. The next time you arrive, you don't need to rush, but let yourself just be there. And you can't quite do this seated, but we're going to pretend we're doing that trapezius exercise that you did on your back. So elbows in, imaginary treasure box in front of you, and start to press the elbows back. The 4 points of our diamond were the base of the skull, the points of the shoulders, and the mid back. So imagine you're on your back and you can press those 4 points into the earth, letting them spread out. As you do it here, you might feel a little bit of work happening, hopefully not too much. I know some people said they were sore after doing this in our training together. Notice if you can feel how that action supports the head, and then let everything go. And here's our after shot where you get to glide the head from side to side and see if you notice any difference in the quality of your movement, a lubrication, any sense of ease or glide. And then the next time you're gazing over to the left, you can take your measurement to see if your chin has traveled a little further along the collarbone line, and then the other way. And then come back to center and let all of that experience go. And let yourself be supported physically. You can gently sway the weight from side to side and the pelvis, imagining the spine like a tall piece of bamboo, just gently moving in the wind. And use that side to side to actually create a little more length through the spine, up through the neck. Let your movement get teenier and teenier, just like we did at the beginning of class. And then as you start to hover around center, notice any feeling of lightness or length. Take a couple of breaths there. And then let the breath help you start to bring more ease into the body and into your experience, so you can just drop in and trust that all the work that you've done in class has built the support, and you don't have to do it. You don't have to activate anything or fire anything. Now you get to just float. Close the eyes or gaze at a single point. Close the breath. Don't close the breath. Let the breath be nice and open, but close the mouth. And see if you can observe the breath flowing naturally down towards the heart. And then keep your awareness at the heart, even as the breath rises up and out, your attention sinks down and in. You can start attaching the mantra Om Namah Shivaya to the breath. And so each time you inhale into the heart, try to feel the vibration of the silent mantra Om Namah Shivaya, reverberating at the heart space. And then the same thing as you exhale, you repeat the mantra and let it help you travel deeper into the core of the heart. Babaji describes the heart like a lotus, and on the inhale you can feel or visualize the flowers of the lotus opening, and on the exhale you can travel down into the stem of the lotus. And it helps us go deeper and deeper inside. And see how gently you can repeat the mantra. Just notice if you're sitting with any more ease than usual, if the head feels lighter, if the shoulders feel less tight or taxed. Maybe there's more awareness through the spine and the core. And I invite you to pay attention after this class is over, because it's really fun to see how standing up and walking around and doing life feels with this reset. So I hope everybody feels nourished, body, mind, and spirit. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste. Have a great week, everybody. See you soon. Thumbs up if your head and neck feel different. I'm just curious. Oh, 2 thumbs up. Wow. Okay, that's... Yes! Yoga is magic, and you're magic. Jai Shiva.